These aliens were here. We know why they were here, and it was 80 years ago. Well, the director of the Department of Homeland, what it means for these athletes to say, no, that's the expectation. I'm going to meet it, whatever the cost. Hamnet releases tomorrow after a limited release a couple of weeks ago. If you don't know anything about Shakespeare beyond his literary works, this movie gives you a glimpse of who he was outside of that. He had a family, a wife, and three children, an older daughter, and a set of twins, a boy and a girl. The boy's name was Hamnet. At a very young age, Hamnet dies, and it's speculated that when Shakespeare wrote Hamlet, he was grieving over the son who had just passed. Now, this movie doesn't really let you in on the fact that the protagonist is Shakespeare until about the third act. If I remember correctly, and I just saw the movie a couple of hours ago, we don't hear his name until about the third act. And it's said once. Someone calls him William Shakespeare specifically, and then his wife mentions him by name and calls him Will. But prior to that, we never hear his name. So throughout the movie, I'm trying to understand or figure out who this person is. Because again, I've not heard his name yet. And I figured maybe it's not important. I don't need to hear his name or know his name. But there were also other clues within the movie. He is reciting lines from Shakespeare's works. So I thought maybe he's just an enthusiast. He seems to be a playwright himself. Maybe he's just inspired by Shakespeare and what he has written, and he just muses on some of those lines. And then we get to his twins being born, and we learn the boy's name, and it's Hamnet. And then again, it's are you telling us this is Shakespeare? Or are you telling us he idolizes Shakespeare? Both of those, in my head at least, could have been true. And then it goes further when the boy dies. And because I knew of that history of Shakespeare's loss, it began to click. Oh, okay, so either this is Shakespeare or they're just telling that story and the names of the people have been changed. Well, no. It turns out, again, when we get to the third act, we do hear his name for the first time, and then it all falls together. Now, the way that the movie gets there is done very well. The boy who plays Hamnet does an excellent job, exceptional. Um, from the moment this movie starts, actually, it's it feels sad. And what I noticed throughout the movie is it's very blue tinted. The screen, the way that the movie is shot, it's a lot of blues in it, like the background, the atmosphere. It's very blue tinted. And in some parts of the movie, it is more vibrant. We do see the sun, but most of the movie that includes the protagonist, who we learn is Shakespeare later, it's always blue. It's always sad wherever he is. And once we get to his son dying, it makes sense. He's sad this entire time, and it's just letting us know this is coming, or at least that's how I'm interpreting it. And they really, really pack the emotion into this movie. Every performance you could feel for that character. And it was most powerful through the actor who played Hamnet himself. He did, again, a phenomenal job being the son who dies. And the way that he dies is expertly done as well. He, it's without giving away too much, such an excellent way for him to have died. And I know that probably sounds weird, but once you see it, you'll understand what I mean. He does an excellent job with that role. And I mentioned in my Wicked review how it almost brought me to tears. This one also almost brought me to tears just with his performance alone. Now, of course, the mother and the siblings, and even Shakespeare himself, all of the characters do bring that emotion. But the child who played Hamnet specifically and especially really touches you in your heart, and you feel for this loss. It's very good. This might be the best movie I've seen this year, actually. Ending out the year, we have come all the way to December, and this is the best movie that I've seen. Now, hopefully, more people see this movie, and also, I say more people, hopefully, movie is well received by everyone, and audiences flock to it to see this story because not only is it a love story, not only is it a story of loss, it also incorporates some of Shakespeare's works. Again, the protagonist is musing on some of these lines, but you learn that this is just him coming up with the lines that will be in his plays. And it's very strange at first because you're trying to figure out whether or not this is Shakespeare. But then once you realize that it is, and then you remember having read those plays, however long ago it was, could be, a week ago, if, you really are into Shakespeare and his works. But some of those things come back to you and you remember some of those lines and you're like, oh, I recognize that. It's very cool to see that on there outside of an academic environment, if that makes any sense. So being able to recognize that, yes, this is Shakespeare and his works, and that is Shakespeare we're seeing on the screen. Um, it's very well done, it's very well put together, and everyone should see this movie.